At Princeton, I was taught that you're supposed to frame issues according to the budget categories that you have. According to the report that you read from the Brookings Institution or from some think tank in Lansing. You know what I mean? Or some category that a foundation has created. Any foundation people here? Oh, good. If Kellogg Foundation was here, I'd say the same thing as I've said this to them. We've created artificial categories of issues because they suit our expert ways of doing things. But you know, when you talk to folks around your dinner table, that's not how we talk. When you listen to people talk, when you listen to yourself talk about issues, we actually make connections between and among issues. We create what I would call webs of concern. And it's those webs of concern that we need to know if we want our work to be relevant to people's lives. Because it's those webs is where people live their lives. It's the connections between and among things that creates the relevance for people, the meaning for people. It's not just the one little name of the issue. It's all that makes it up. It's all that makes it up. This is really hard to do because when we go out and engage people, we're often listening for them to tell us to affirm something we already think, or to fit into one of our budget categories or one of our programmatic categories. But if you want to mobilize communities for kids, we've got to deal with webs of concerns that people have. I was at my parents' house not too long ago in upstate New York. We were sitting around the same table I grew up around in our kitchen 45 years ago. My parents now are in their early 80s. I have a grandmother who's 105 in Miami. And my parents were shuttling back and forth from upstate New York to Miami to take care of my 105-year-old grandmother. There are a lot of people in this situation in the country. And this was right at the height of the healthcare debate in this country. And as I was sitting around that table looking at my parents and the strain that they were under, and at the same table that I grew up with when I was 6, I was thinking, why in God's name can we have this conversation about what our aspirations are and what we need to do around this kitchen table? But in public life, when it comes to healthcare, that conversation is nowhere to be heard. And so it seems to me the challenge that you face in dealing with early childhood issues is how do we tap into the conversations that single moms and parents and foster parents are struggling with day in and day out with their kids inside their own kitchens. How do we take those conversations and make them public? My God, how can we build the public will that we need, the public support that we need, the public resources that we need if we have privatized all our public conversations? And those conversations never come into the public arena. It's impossible to get to where we want to go if we do not make these conversations public, if we do not create safe spaces for people to have them, and if we do not figure out ways to move from those spaces into action. One last point I want to mention about knowing your community, and it's about language. It's about language. Now, when I mention this, even in my own office, I have a lot of consultants who help us with branding us, right? Everyone does this now, right? And they're always saying, you know, these consultants, I come from a political background, the whole thing was, how can you find the language that will get people to support you? Basically, how can you manipulate people? Right? That's what it is, right? How can we manipulate people to vote for us and to support us? I think we need to do something else as stewards of public life. I think those of us in this room, we need to listen to the language that people are using as they talk about their lives, not so that we can build a better website or create a better brochure or give a better speech. It's so that we can use that language in the work that we do because it makes our work real. It says to people that we hear them, that we see them, that we understand them, and that we're going to work on their behalf. It seems to me that we need to understand and use this language if we're going to make that happen. Last thing on know your community. Now, whenever I do this, people say, well, I'm already doing a lot of civic engagement work. And what I say to folks is, you know, I've been doing this work for 25 years. I have banned the phrase civic engagement from my organization. You won't find it on our website. You won't find it in any of our organizational materials, I hope. Because as soon as you say civic engagement, people all of a sudden start thinking about flip charts. How many colored magnet markers do we need? Where are we going to hang the newsprint, and can we put tape up on the walls? How many people are we going to recruit into these conversations? And before you know it, we're in an inwardness conversation again. We're in an inwardness conversation again. And what we do is we set up civic engagement conversations that bear no relationship to people's concerns. Have you ever been involved in one of those situations where they have those little yellow dots? And they say to you, well, just no conversation. Everyone be quiet. Just go up to the wall and put your little yellow dot up there, and then we'll count them up and figure out what we need to do. Well, heck, what does that tell us about what we know about our community? What have we come to know about each other? What have we come to know about what we need to do? What kind of infrastructure, as Alyssa was talking about, have we created in the community about how we're going to talk to each other? We're not talking to each other in those situations. We're avoiding each other. We're avoiding conflict. We're avoiding tension. We're avoiding choices. We're avoiding making judgments. Well, heck, there's no way to solve these problems without making some judgments about where we're going to put resources and what we're going to do. So what I say to folks is, I'm not interested in civic engagement. I'm not interested in process. I'm interested in people. I'm not interested in process. I'm interested in impact. Engagement is a tool. It's not an end. And so we need to be careful about how we talk about it, because too often it crowds out the real work that needs to get done.